an instrument everybody loves.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing on this lovely Tuesday evening? It's wow, it's just 20 to 10 right now where I am. So hope you all are doing well this evening. Let me know a quick sound check to see if you can hear me on the mic, just to make sure that everything sounds good. Press a one in the chat if you can hear me coming through well. Just gonna take this time right now just to say what's up to people in the chat. I can see a few people already here. Aaron B, what's going on? How's it going? Welcome. Falcon Black. Yes, yes, yes. How's it going? Chat Enough Podcast. Welcome, welcome. Salute to you. The Antisocial Socialite Podcast. I always your name is a bit of a tongue twister, I'm telling you. But how's it going? How's it going? But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well today. Vincent, nice, nice, nice. Thanks for stopping through. Please make sure that on your way in, you do like the stream, subscribe if you are new. That would be most appreciated. You know how it does on YouTube with the algorithms. You know how it all works, all that good stuff. So please make sure you hit the like. I'll be saying that periodically. I always keep forgetting, but it is what it is. It's been a crazy night anyway. I don't know if you're football fans, but man, the Champions League this evening has been crazy. So all you football fans out there, man, it's been a great night. I tried to push back the stream an hour. That's why I didn't do it at 8:30. I would normally go 8:30, but I thought, you know what? Today is a Champions League night, so I thought, no, man, I got to push it back. So it's been crazy, crazy, crazy evening. So it's wrapping up, still going on right now, but the scores have been crazy. So I don't know if you guys are football fans or ladies are football fans, but man, it's been really, really good so far. So yeah, man, yeah, man, yeah, man. Anyway, so title of this live stream, as you all can see, you know, it's another religious live stream from your boy, but is question today, following on from it's obviously Black History Month, as we know. And this is one of the subjects which, funny enough, I was sitting back thinking about this. I thought, of all the things that we talk about, this topic actually doesn't get addressed by the actual wider public. I don't know why. Well, I'm going to discuss as to my thoughts as to why that is, but I'll just think to myself, why not I just try and tackle it? Because it does get discussed, but not in mainstream context. It gets discussed from underground, it gets discussed from other people. But the question today is, and this is what we're going to get into, is Christianity for us? Is it for us as a group of people? And by Christianity, you could also substitute Islam, substitute Buddhism, substitute whatever religion that you want to put in there, whatever religious context, whatever religious affiliation that you've done and that you follow. My question is this: is this something which has been set up? Is this something that benefits our people? Now, I'm going to be as fair. I'm going to be as let's just say calm as possible. So I know, you know, this is a topic as well, and this is why I'm going to get into the reason why we don't talk about this as often. It's a very divisive topic when it comes to religion, especially for our people. And this is how I see things. We as a people, if anything, we're very spiritual. I think it's evident in how we believe, what we believe, and even what we take on, how we believe it, especially when it comes to this Christianity. Because I've realized on average, and again, just in my short life on this earth, that when it comes to it might be my upbringing, it might be my biasness, but when it comes to us and this Christianity piece, it's so different than it comes to white people. And yet I'm thinking to myself, how is our religion so different than other people's religion in how we practice it, how we believe it, how we even interpret the text that was given to us? Because make no mistake about it, Christianity was not on these shores before Europeans got here. Same like Islam. These religions were not on this shore like this until outsiders came in and pushed it hard and heavy. And wherever you have a group of people who actually, you know, believe in this, if you look at the historical roots, it comes from, that's right, I'm going to say the word colonialism and slavery. Now, again, what kind of makes me interested about this situation is that, again, we're talking about, we don't want to talk about our wrong, so our losses in the past. We don't want to talk about our negative history. We don't like to talk about slavery, colonialism. That's more than that's we're not just that. And I'm like, cool, I get that. But yet, how is it we've not tackled this elephant in the room, which is okay then? So what about religion? Because before whatever powers came onto the shores of the continent, what were we doing beforehand? People are trying to fight to figure out, okay, what were we doing beforehand? So, okay, cool, cool, cool. But I'm just like this. So, what were we worshiping beforehand? What were we believing in beforehand? And people say, you know, it's some sort of, you know, voodoo type religion. You see it on in certain African nations. People call it juju, all this kind of stuff in Haiti. That's a huge reason why I think a lot of Haitians got a lot of negative PR. Because let's be honest, when you think of Haiti, for the uninitiated, people think voodoo, people think juju, people think all these negative connotations. and let other people tell it, depending on what you believe in. That was what our people were doing before all these other nations came into the shore, colonized us, separated us, called us a different name, did what we need to do, and now we are mostly Christians or mostly Muslims. That's kind of the timeline. That's how again, this is how I've been introduced to the situation. And obviously from time and time it goes on, you generation to generation, it gets passed down. And that's how religion really conquers the earth. People think that religion goes around the earth because, all these people, groups of people just decided one day just to, convert to Christianity. They decided one day to convert to Islam. They decided one day to convert to Judaism. Like, that's not how it happens. Most people will get introduced by this religion at home, and most of them will get introduced, if you look at the historical context, by enslavement, basically by force. The reason why Christianity and Islam has such a massive hold is not because one day all these missionaries went around the globe and decided to preach the good tidings, and then everyone decided, you know what? I'm going to put down my current God. I'm going to put down my current faith that I believe in, and I'm going to serve and believe in whatever text, whatever belief system that you told us was going to be beneficial for us. That's not how it happens. It was by divide, conquer. It was by the sword. That's how these religions take hold. So when I hear this stuff about, these religions are going halfway across the world, the only way it could have done that is by one thing, by the sword. And you look at every single region on planet Earth that has been Christians, it's all been by the same phase. Historically, European missionaries went across the world in search of new lands. Well, let's just say they were Europeans, search of new lands. They conquered the island, or they conquered the region. And then guess what they did? They forced the natives to believe their religion. Now, why did they do that? Why was that so important? Because what's interesting enough is they didn't necessarily strip their language from them. But why was it important that they gave them the text of their God? Why was it so important? And I'll tell you why. Because people talk about this, and I don't like always using this, but I will say this in this case. When it comes to supremacist ideologies, in this case, maybe whatever, white supremacy or Asian supremacy, their God is what's used in order to, guess what? Control them. You can say control the masses, but it's to get the people on the same wavelength. If you can get people, especially when it comes, let's be honest, let's look at Christianity. Let's take Christianity right now. When everyone thinks of Jesus, when everyone thinks of Christians, regardless of what black people are trying to infiltrate into, the masses nowadays about there being black Jesus, black this, black that, we all know what Jesus stereotypically looks like to us. It's normally a guy who is not melanin. He doesn't have melanin pigmentation in him, or shall I say, a lack of it. He doesn't look like us. His hairstyle doesn't resemble like us. He doesn't have our exact same hue. So let's just put it as it is. When we look at Jesus, we look at Jesus from a standpoint of a stereotypical, even though they say Middle Eastern, but all the Jesus are pretty much European. And look, you couldn't tell the difference between a European, a normal white European, and Jesus. So even though they say, oh, but he was a Middle Eastern, he was this. No. Truth be told, we see him as a white guy, a Caucasian. Why? Because that's who brought the text to us. And why is that so important? Why is that so important? Because think about this. If I can get you to believe that your God looks like me, that means on some deep level, some psychological level, you are seeing this group of people to be above you. Now, again, it goes deep. Just think about it. If you have a God that looks like a certain way, angels look a certain way, the children of every single sort of text or every single media that's been portrayed, when it looks at Moses, you look at Charlton Heston and Ten Commandments, you look at every single person in the Bible who's of note, who's meant to be the good guys now, the good guys, they all look a certain way. So what do you internalize during your conquest? What do you internalize during your upbringing of this movement, of this religious beliefs that you now believe in? You believe that the person who is there to save you is the same person who's there to conquer you. It's such a strange dichotomy, but that's exactly how it is. And I'm always so surprised about how when people talk about, the history of our people, and we talk about what we need to unshackle the colonialist mind, unshackle white supremacy, people don't start with the biggest, in my humble opinion now. Again, I'm going to try and be cool, I'm going to try and be nice, but I have to just call it as it is. The biggest tool used to uphold white supremacy, you could argue, is the Bible. Now, Vincent, I see that in your chat you said the Bible I've always read described Jesus as anything other than a Caucasian man. Now, while that may be the case when you look at, I think it's one text in the Bible. So when you look at like one text in the Bible, it people, and this is where sometimes Christians do this. They take one scripture and they completely bastardize it. But all right, I'll take your point. But every single, I don't know how it was in your household, Vincent, but every single household that I've been in who a black person who says that, you know, they follow the Bible, every single monument, every single cross, everything looks like a Caucasian man. That's every single church that I've been in. Again, I've not been in every single church in the world, so it could be different. But every single church that I've been in, regardless of how people try and rationalize and say, well, hold on a second. If you look at the Bible, it said that Jesus was bronze. He said that he was this, hair like wool. Every single Bible, every single image that's put into your psyche is not one of a bronze wool-like creature. It's one of a Caucasoid with straight hair. That's always how it's always been. Now, you know, people say, "Oh, there's the Black Madonna that's in Rome and all this kind of stuff," but that's not what's publicized to us. That's not what people see it. And do you know how we know this is the case? You can see videos online where you get a black Jesus and you say, "This is what Jesus looked like." Do you know what people will say? This is how it happens with black folk. Black folk will say this. Oh, not even black folk, but people say this. Oh, why does it matter what color of skin it was? I'm like, oh, really? So think about this. When Jesus is portrayed as white, it's fine. No one says anything about it. But the moment you say, well, hold on a second, Jesus was actually a black guy, people say, well, what difference does it matter what color it was? What difference does it matter? There is a difference. There is a huge difference because it's all about the psyche of you as an individual. But the thing is, this is what kind of kills me with black folk when I hear a lot of these conversations and how black folk will willingly die upon a sword, which I just don't understand why for other groups of people. I have black people who just argue with you about, oh, it doesn't matter what color of skin it is. It doesn't matter. I'm like, listen, there's a reason why these things were forced to you. There's a reason why these things were advertised to you. It's not just because these guys didn't know any better. They did know better. There's a reason why. It's all used as a proxy for A, control, and B, in order to uphold their supremacy over you. How is it possible? There's no, throughout history, there's no culture that worships a God that does not look like them in terms of their looks, in terms of their culture. You go through history, you got the Roman gods, the Greek gods, you've got the gods of the oh my days, the Viking gods. Of course, you got the terrible stereotypical European gods. Every single culture, black folk believe this, has a God that they worship or has a God that they believe in that exactly resembles themselves. There's a reason why, if you go to every single culture throughout history, everyone has a God that looks like them in every aspect. There's no other culture that doesn't. Even when it comes to Islam, where it's, even though it's like it's blasphemy to paint the prophet in a way, or it's blasphemy to depict him. Let's be honest. We all know what type of image, if we were to depict him, that it will be of, and it wouldn't be of anyone who doesn't look like someone from that region. And that's another reason why, if you look at the people, the way everything matters. Everything matters. And for us, when it comes to, again, I'm coming back to Christianity and believing in the Bible and all that kind of other stuff, it just, one of the things what just kills me the most is just how, when we talk about these subjects, barely gets broached in this kind of way. And then when it does get broached, all the pushback gets into it. And I'm like, how for people who always talk about they don't want to be seen as conquered and don't want to be seen as this? I'm like, you do know that you are still serving one of the biggest religions that has ever conquered your black ass. There's no other religion on this side of earth. And I'm going to say even Islam that has managed, under the guise of Christianity, to conquer black people. And yet they'll still give them passes. They'll still make excuses for them. I mean, think about this. This is the same religion now that, again, let them tell it, believes that everyone should be treated as equals. Everyone should be treated with respect. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. That's kind of the rhetoric that I was taught. But yet that same rhetoric was not bestowed upon you when you got this religion. So I always find it so interesting how, when it comes to how we undertake these kind of religious aspects, Christianity being this one today, we undertake it in such a different way than other groups take it. And this is the next point I want to get into, because, again, stereotyping now, I'm stereotyping, but you know, when you go to a white church and you look at how they have their service, I'm thinking songs of praise. So, and on Sunday, was it Sunday afternoons? Oh man, songs of praise used to be on, and songs of praise was a stereotypical Church of England. That was a stereotypical, for me, white church, you know, very orderly, just hymns, It was, just a speaker who would speak for half an hour. The service would be done in like an hour. That was a stereotypical white church. Again, I'm stereotyping, but that's how it used to be. That was a stereotype white church. Now, you go to the black church. Now, again, this is the same faith now, same book they're reading from, same religion, same everything. Matter of fact, you could argue we should be learning from the same white folk because they, bestowed it upon us. Now, let's go to the black church. Now, the black church, let me. The ones that I've been to, at least. Again, I'm stereotyping, but this is based on what I've been to, what I've grown up around, things that I'm aware of. It would be time limit. On some situations, there would be no time limit. We'd think it's like 3 hours long. It would be not orderly in the sense of nice hymns. It would be completely extra. It would be just all these kind of even how they praise and worship, even how they sing their songs, even how the music is. It's a completely different vibe. Now, my opinion is because we have a different inbuilt structure to certain things, but it's just interesting how we undertake these religions that other groups, they don't have it in that same sort of way. And I'm thinking to myself, whoa, hold on a second. And it's like, even when it comes to when the speaker comes on or the preacher, how when it comes to a preacher, when it comes to a white church, again, I'm stereotyping, it's like, man, again, nice and order, it will be nice and calm, it will be quiet. Whereas when a black church, I'm like this, oh my days, sometimes organ we playing, people be falling off the chairs, people doing this. Ooh, I'm like, what the? This is some of the things which I've seen and come across, and these are some of the things which just makes me think. Don't you not see that? Surely, there's a different type of temperament, which means, is this religion really for us, or is there something different that we have built in us? Which, for me, it tells me, I'm like, this ain't for us, chief. And one of the biggest reasons why I believe we glean to this religion, and again, this goes back to this whole, are we conquered? This goes back to the whole, unfortunately, colonialism mindset. But Christianity, is built around what? Struggle. It's all built around struggle. Now, again, if anyone's initiated in the faith, they'll know this. There are certain things that Christians tell themselves in order to keep them strong in the faith. And one of the things is looking at the life of Jesus. That's right, your Jesus. Your Jesus is the one who struggled the most. He died for your sins. He was persecuted for doing the right thing. He was rejected by his own. His life was nothing but struggle from when he was born to when he died and rose up from the cross. Jesus' life has been nothing but struggle. And here's the thing, what kills me the most. Because of that, us as people were taught, therefore, your life must be based around struggle. Matter of fact, if you struggle, that must mean you're a good Christian. That's how they get you now. But again, this is for you black folk now. For you to be a good Christian, you have to go through struggle. I'm telling you, you have to go through struggles, trials, temptations. Matter of fact, if you don't, you are not worthy to pick up that crown. Because again, if you believe the Bible, if you read the Bible, it says, in order to follow me, you have to pick up the cross. Now, the cross is symbolic of the struggles, symbolic of the trials, symbolic of every single thing that, let's be honest, as a group, collective, black people can say we have gone through. That's why I do believe when it comes to this religion, especially Christianity, when we read the Bible, it holds so strong to us. Because think about this. You look at all the passage scriptures, the stories in the Bible. You go from Genesis to Revelation. You go to all the people. You got Job who suffered. You got Moses who suffered. The Bible is littered with people who, as they call it, overcame. But what did they overcame? Struggle. Maybe you could talk slavery when it comes to the Egyptians. Think about this. The whole Bible is geared towards you as an individual believing in your struggle is perfect. That's what makes you a good believer. Whereas if you look at the groups of people who actually taught you this religion, now again, I'm generalizing here, they weren't the ones who necessarily went through the struggle. They're the ones who put in the struggle on you. So you see how it all sort of plays a nice little trick upon you guys, a nice little redirect into thinking that this is something for you. And and here's the thing, I understand why. I 100% understand why. Because again, if you believe that you should be struggling to be a good Christian, in matter of fact, because again, depending on what you believe in, you can't be rich if you're a Christian, because it says it's easier for it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is for a camel to get through needle eye. Something, I can't remember the exact scripture off the top of my head now, but you can't be rich, okay? You can't be doing this. All these things are dedicated in you being stuck in your struggle, broke, and uninitiated. self, because also it's a case of they don't want you to believe in any science. They don't want you to believe in anything else. This is how, when you look at a lot of these religions, how they're taught, it has such a powerful impact into how, in my humble opinion, a lot of black people see themselves. And this also goes with, again, the white supremacy aspect to it. Because again, who are the groups of people who are actually, guess what, internalizing it? Who are the group of people who are actually following it in the way that they do it? And someone put it in the chat. That's exactly right. The perfect slave. Now, again, I will say this. I got to be fair and balanced here. It all depends on who's teaching you and how they're teaching to you. And that's the key. That's the question. Because at the end of the day, how it was taught, what scriptures were used, was the perfect way to create the perfect slave. Think about it. Turn the other cheek. We've all heard that nonsense. Turn the other cheek. Love those that willfully and spitefully abuse you. I'm like, are you serious? Think about this. They're telling you as the perfect slave while you're getting beaten. This is in God. This, and also this one that kills me as well. This is all in the will of God. This is all in the. I'm like, oh my days. Everything is in the will of God. They're creating perfect slaves to believe in the mess that you're in, stay in your troubles that you're in, and if you try and break free from that struggles, you are not a good Christian. If you question, so this is another thing that a lot of older people that they experienced when they was in the church, you could not question what went on. If you questioned, you're a bad believer. If you questioned, you're questioning God. You're questioning. I'm like, are we serious? But you see how it works. And again, depending on who the person is, depending on how they interpret it, I'm telling you, not only could I get you as an individual to, especially I'm going to say this as a male pastor, I can get women to believe that. Because you've seen it all the time where male pastors, they abuse their women. They're sleeping around with the members. They're doing all kinds of things in the name of, this is what God has told me what to do. You see it all the time. You see it with SPAC Nation, how, and think about it. From the outside, you're thinking, how is this possible? But when you're in the inside, you can't see any way out. Look at SPAC Nation. They completely, people almost kill themselves donating to the church, because at the end of the day, they were told, they're under the belief system that by doing this, you are becoming a good Christian, you are a good believer, you are going to go, you're going to buy your way pretty much into the pearly gates. And this is all depends on, again, this is why I'll say this, the Bible is a very, very clever book. People downplay it, and I don't. I think some of the scriptures are fantastic in how it's worded, the King James Version that is, and how it's worded. There's some text which I'm like, it's beautifully designed. It's depending on how slippery the character is who's teaching you this religion from this book. I'm telling you, they can get people from all walks of life. These aren't just people, again, this is the killing part. These aren't just people who are from necessarily low income backgrounds. Some of these people are made, they're doctors, they're lawyers. But when it comes to this religious piece, it's almost like part of their brain, part of their analytical left-sided function of their brain goes completely out of the way. And I think to myself, how is it possible that you as a scientist, you as someone else can believe this the way how you believe it? Again, I'm not here to say you cannot believe in a God. I don't believe, I believe you can believe what you want to believe. And I'll be honest with you, on some level, I do believe there's something out there that we just don't know about. I just do. I believe that based on the earth, based on how it was formed, we can call it's based on pure luck, how many millions of the probability is probably millions and millions and millions to one. That's probably true. But I do believe that there's something out there that we don't know, which is unseen to the naked eye. I do believe in it. As to what it is, I don't know. And this is where I always have a bit of disconnect when it comes to this whole religious aspect, because people believe this is what it is, this is what it is, this is what it is. But I'm like, hold on a second. How can you be so sure? They're not sure, but they believe it by faith. Fine. But the problem with that faith is leading you, a lot of people, down to some paths. I'm thinking, geez, it lacks a lot of common sense. A lot of stories in the Bible where I'm like, any single human being who would read that would honestly believe that cannot be taken in a literal form. But black folk, this is another thing about black folk and how we interpret these religions. You talk to the average black person about how they interpret their faith, it's a completely different aspect. They believe in it like it's actual literal thing that took place. They believe things that it actually took place. I mean, if you had a daughter and your daughter came up to you and says, Dad, I was impregnated by the Holy Spirit, no man touched me, would you believe that? Would you really believe that? However, you wrap it around a religious aspect. You said that God told me this. You told me that God told me this. All of a sudden now people say, oh, wow, I believe it. I'm like, are we serious? If somebody told you right now, I walked on water, you would ask him, prove it to me. Show it to me. You would give him 101 questions, 1,000,001 questions. You wouldn't even believe in one iota until you saw it with your own eyes. However, I wrap it around a religious text and told you that he said it and I believe it. There it is. No one questions any of the wiser. So it's always interesting how even the most intelligent people, you wrap around these things around the auspices of faith, religion, people will believe exactly what it is that you tell them. It's so interesting. And just to watch how we as, and I understand why sometimes, let's be honest. At the end of the day, it's one of those things where religion gives people hope. And this is one thing which, again, I've got to be fair and balanced when it comes to like faiths and belief systems and whatnot. It gives people hope. It gives people structure. It gives people sometimes a reason to continue because people believe that, because let's be honest, people live some real horrible, shitty lives, man. People live some shitty lives. And some people live, born and die horrible, horrible lives. I'm talking situations where I'm like, oh my days. So I understand why a lot of the reason why people cling on to faith, because the faith is not necessarily about what happens here, what happens after we go. That makes sense. So I get it. People want to have the belief system that something out there is gonna, there's something better out there from. So when they pass from this world onto the next world, there's gonna be something out there that's almost gonna reward them for their struggles, reward them for the trials that they've been through, reward them, or you know, it's almost like a karma. It's like karma, isn't it? What we want in our life is this: we want good people to be rewarded, we want bad people to be negatively, we want them to be punished. That's how it is in life. And I get it. I 100% get it. But sometimes when you look at some of the religions and some of these things, I'm like, is this something that's beneficial for us? Or is it something that's not beneficial for us? And when I see a panoramic view, I mean, people individualize it all they want. And some people, especially nowadays, what they do when it comes to religion, they'll take parts of what they want and completely disregard the rest of it. And this is what I realized when it comes to a lot of people. People to say, you know what, this part of the Bible, I'm going to believe. That part of the Bible, I don't care about. And then he's just like, that's a whole nother situation that kills me. But I understand why people, just to be fair and balanced, I understand why people actually believe what they believe. It's because people want to just think, especially black folk, there's something better out there for us except for struggle. There's something more out there except for the life I'm living right now. And let's be honest, you can't disagree with it. So that's why a lot of times, even to this day, it holds so strong. But it's just what kind of the question I just want to the question that I really want to unpack, and the things which is always so killing me is just when you look at the history of how it came to us, why haven't we not unpacked or why do we still hold it so strong? And a lot of time, again, like I said, it's because we relate to it more than any other group of people. I mean, I remember back in the day where, if anyone knows anything about Hebrew Israelites, they really unpack the Bible in such a way that it's kind of undeniable that sometimes thinking when he talks about the Bible, it must be talking about us as a group of people. Because you look at, again, history of struggle, slavery, colonization, you talk about being persecuted, you talk about all these kind of trigger words that for the average black person, these trigger them in such a way. Again, they're so slippery with it, they're so slick with it. There's a reason why. There's a reason why a lot of people lean to these texts because, again, the power that it holds when it comes to how we resonate with it, how we believe in it. But it just fascinates me when it comes to religion aspect as to, listen, whenever I see Christianity, whenever I see black people, I almost see it as an oxymoron right now. I see it as an oxy flipping moron. And yet people they still believe in it. And again, I got nothing against it. I believe if that works for you as an individual, it works for you as an individual. But it just kills me the most how these religions, they don't have any of us. If you look at even Africans, how they're depicted in the Bible, again, the curse of Ham, negative depictions of every single African tribe in the Bible, all these negative depictions about, again, going back to being conquered, going back to being colonized. People talk about how, the reason why a lot of the Europeans went over to the continent of Africa is because they wanted to civilize these, these heathen. That's what one of the reasons why they did it. Because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for us Christians, you guys would still be in mud huts. You guys would still be worshiping that voodoo. You guys were still doing that backwards nonsense thing that you were doing way before they got back here. So this is why, if you look at other religions or other groups of people, this is how they rationalize some of the things that they did. And even still to this day, I hear some people still believe in that nonsense. And I'm just like, okay, fair enough then. But that's sometimes the power of religion. That's how the power of how it holds onto it and how these things happen. It's one of those situations where when you take a step back and really look into some of our practices and some of the belief systems that we hold, one of the questions I have to pose, I have to ask the people is, why do you believe what you believe in? You look at the history of what you believe in. Can you still believe in a book? Can you still believe in a Bible, a religion that has pretty much abused you, enslaved you, colonized you, told that you're less than nothing, basically has told you to be a good believer, you have to be a non-free thinker and pretty much a slave. This is what you have to be a good Christian. Pretty much a slave. And this is, and even the songs that were sung, that even a lot of church people still sing to this day, it teaches you how to be a really, really, really good slave. So much so that, again, when I talk to even the smartest black person, even a black person who's a doctor or lawyer, got the degrees, they're educated, and I quiz them, I ask them, why do you believe in this Bible? Why do you believe in this thing? And a lot of times they tell me their reasons why, and then I say, okay, then cool. And I point to these texts and I say, can you believe that this actually took place? Do you believe that this actually took place? And they're like, yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. And it's all by faith. Yet and still, when I say, okay, then if I was to tell you myself now that I did this, I walked on water, I turned water into wine, my daughter was impregnated by the Holy Spirit, you would tell me I'm a liar because that doesn't follow any scientific evidence. Yet and still, when you wrap it around the opposites of religion, boom, you cannot tell this person anything different. Matter of fact, they will fight you if you tell you that you're wrong. They'll fight you. And this is the power and the danger that Christianity has a hold on us as a people. Listen, you go to certain African nations, it's split 50-50 between Christians and Muslims. There's war. Why? Because each person believes that their religion is the religion that everyone should follow. And this is the next thing about when we talk about religion. It's not good enough that you believe it by yourself. They want everybody else to believe the exact same thing that you believe into. And if you don't, you get called whatever word on the sun. You be a sinner, you be a heathen, you be an infidel, whatever word that they want to attach to you, you are seen as an other. And this is, again, it helps form the tribal nation. It helps tribalize people. It helps the division. And even to this day, we can see, again, in some African nations, a lot of them, to be fair, you have pretty much half and half Christian Muslims. They're like, man, and we all know it's nothing which, when we take it on, it's nothing that gets resolved simply, is it? Warfare, bloodshed, everything like that at all. And it's just why. And the thing is, when you look at the history, why in God's earth would a group of people who was taught this based on sword and division will be still upholding the same thing that's dividing them right now? Make that make sense. You're currently divided by religion, and that was the same thing that was used to divide you as a people. The only reason why people were Muslim in the north was because Islam came in and stopped at a certain point. The only reason why people are Christians in the south is because Christianity conquered the south. That's the only reason why. We look at the complete history of it. But yet and still to this day, people act as if it's, this is this is because of the blood of Jesus or whatever you want to call it. I'm like, bro, again, this is such a sensitive topic for a lot of people. So again, I just want to say, this is not something which I'm demonizing people for believing what they believe in. The question is, well, is it good for us? Is it bad for us? And when you actually peel back the layers of why we believe what we believe, surely you have to conclude that there's an element of a supremacy tactic here when it comes to us as a people, which has been used to conquer, colonize, keep us in a mindset. Because if you believe that the people who has enslaved you are pretty much replicas of Jesus, you are going to have a different kind of mindset towards this group of people than you would your own people. If you're constantly taught that your own people's cursed, your own people, this is God's will that you're enslaved, this is God's will that this happened, and not only that, in your struggle, this is where you find perfect peace. I mean, think about that crap. I've heard so much stuff where people tell you in your struggle, this is where you find your perfect peace, in your struggle. There's so many texts in the Bible which I'm telling you, it's been used to praise struggle, praise this, praise struggle. I'm like, there's a reason why a lot of black people, when it comes to struggle, if you really look at the roots, start with religion, because religion will tell a lot of things about how a group of people believes in what they believe in. And when we look at Christianity, how it was taught to us as a group of people, again, I'm generalizing, a lot of it's struggle. A lot of it is we have to overcome some sort of event. This is why we are the way we are when it comes to sometimes activism, because of how we impart these things, because religion is huge in our culture. Let's just be honest. So when you see these things, I'm like, bro, there's no discussion as to why we are the way we are when we look at our religious practices, our cultural practices. But again, Christianity is huge. It's been the biggest number one burden, or the biggest number one reason why I think we are the way that we are when it comes to struggle, when it comes to even economics. When we talk to economics and talk about how we move as a people, it's just such a weird dynamic. But that's exactly why I'm saying, that's why I pose this question. is Christianity for Black people? Now, I put the link in the chat. I'm gonna pin the link in the at the top so you guys can come in. So I just want to have your input. I don't want it to be the most long stream in the world, but I just really wanted to open up with that. That was my opening monologue. I just want to see exactly. You don't have to say whether you're Christian or not. That's up to you. But I just want to know your viewpoint on religion, Christianity as a whole, where you stand with it from a historical standpoint, and whether it has any relevance to today. Because that's another thing. Some people don't think it has any relevance to today. They really don't. They don't see it the same way. But let me know. Links in the chat. I pinned it to the top. SA Red Pill, welcome.
What's up, man? What's up? Hey,
What you
so
saying? What you
finally
saying?
somebody made this topic, man. No, I'm just saying, like, finally somebody made because I've always, I mean, I do, but you know, people, when you ask these questions, bro, you get attacked immediately. And I like what you said. You're like, the moment you start asking questions, like one half of their brain is just shut off. Like, it could be a medical doctor, or I really see like scientists, like physicists and stuff. But usually, people in biology who study biology and stuff, they still like they still believe in this, even though I feel like some of their studies kind of like disprove a lot of it, but they still do believe in this European book that they got.
Let me ask you this then: Are you religious, man? Is that? Do you believe in Christianity? Are you religious?
No, I wouldn't say I'm religious. I'm somewhat like you. Like there's something you said. You said the whole I do believe that there's something that did make Earth, because this Earth is not a system. It's not a product of randomization. Like it's not random. Like you see all the other planets, they look random. Like they look like they're just a bunch of rock coming together and something happened. But here it's almost like it was formed for us. That's why trees are here and here. So I don't know. I do think there is some intelligent species out there that was involved in our creation, to be honest.
No, no, I
Why are
hear.
we smarter than other animals? Yeah, so you know there's so many things, and these are things that scientists has actually been looking into, right? It just shows that, I'm just going to be honest, that we are logical thinkers, me and you. Like we are people that are like, yeah, but you know what I mean, because basically we're going against both. We're going against basically the big bang, the whole we all come from, a bacteria, and then we grew, and we're also going against the fact that we I mean, the fact that we're introduced to a book, but yet we're the first people on earth. Like it's weird how they know Jesus before us. Shouldn't we have known him before? You know what I mean? So it's this thing where like when you're too logical, sometimes you kind of like make two enemies.
No, I hear you, and it is very true. I mean, people say it's a random chain of events which took place, and to a certain extent, I can't believe that just because of how everything's developed. Now, people say it's evolved over millions and millions of years, depending on who you believe and what you believe. But even still, I'm like, no, there's something else out there. Now, that could be my blackness. There's a side to me that wants to hold on to maybe some sort of faith, but I do believe there's something that we just don't know yet. As to what it is, I don't know.
I mean, the universe is big, bro. That's the thing. A lot of people. That's the thing. Like the universe is really big, bro. Like how, like the universe is old. It's big and old, right? Human beings that just have this idea that maybe we're the first civilization. I don't know why, but I think deep down we want to believe that, but I don't think so. I think there's been civilization that probably came. There's this thing called the Femi Paradox, right? Which kind of like goes into why can't we see other planets and stuff. Like maybe they like went into war something, but because that's why like we have all these asteroids and stuff. They're just maybe pieces of broken up or planets or whatever. But for sure, I do believe there's something out there that was involved in the creation of the human race.
No. I definitely do agree with a lot of things that you've said. It's just we just don't know yet. And one thing I was just going to let me ask you this question: Why do you think then we as a group of people hold on to things like Christianity? What is it that we seem to want to believe in this book? As you said, European book.
It also goes back to what you kind of also said. Black The thing about black people, right? They are the perfect slave. Like they really are, and it's sad because as I say this, I know it may sound like we're trying to change people from away from Christianity, but no, we're just analyzing it and say. But I'm sure both you and I know that this thing of making people at least fully analyze their religion will never happen, right? So the reason we are like this as black people is because for most part, white people read the Bible, black people believe in it, right? And it also goes to what you were saying before. Like we actually believe that this European God, right? That's what it is for most times. This European God will punish us for doing certain bad things, yet never analyze the fact that these people, right, that taught you this religion went into, the Americas. They obviously murdered all those Native Americans. I mean, Christopher Columbus, I had his boat was written the three G's: God, gold, and glory. Like it was written that, and they still do all those messed up things, even in Australia. When you really analyze all of this, you're like, these people are not scared of God. Like they're not actually scared of any hell. None of these people are scared of hell, right? They're not. They actually are not. So, and they're winning, right? And it's just this thing where you're like, they brought the Bible, and then we had the resources, and now they have the resources, and we have all the Bible. Like it's like they're like the perfect scammers, right? Like they actually are, and this is why. And I know it might sound like some coon talk, but this is why the white race will always dominate, bruh. At least I feel like, okay, maybe the Asians, because China and Japan, they kind of like pushed back on it. But for most part, I think also that's one of the main reasons I think that their religion they will always dominate because they know how to pull off the perfect scam.
No, I agree. And one of the things which I didn't touch on, which I should have, which I'm glad you raised, is they couldn't have been scared of their God. Because like you said, there's no way near they could have believed what they was doing was in God's name by murdering people, doing all these horrible things. Yet and still, when he asks a lot of unfortunate black people, they'll say, well, not everyone believes in the Bible, and people do horrible things. I'm like, I agree with you. In the name of God or Jesus, people do horrible things. I'm like, I agree with you, but they brought that Bible along with the most atrocious things you could argue humanity's ever seen. One of them. It's just like, make that make sense. Diogo, welcome. How are you?
Good evening, family. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, doing well, doing well.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you've caught of the topic. I did see you in the chat.
Now
But,
I've been here. I've been here. So no,
awesome.
this is a great conversation, man. I'm actually glad that you are actually talking about this. So let me give you a background story of myself. I'm from Mozambique, though. So I'm
Oh,
in
okay.
Africa at the moment, and yeah, I'm very knowledgeable about things that happen in Western societies and are happening in Africa. So let me tell you this: the Bible, as far as Western civilization first, was just created to actually. Sorry.
No, sorry, don't say anything. We can hear you. Is everything okay?
It's feedback. It's feedback. Yeah, can you both mute our mic? White matters.
What about now?
No, it wasn't you. It was both. It was white matters. It was feedbacking you was
Okay.
reflecting yourself.
Okay.
You can speak now.
So the Bible is actually a sort of agenda in the Western civilization. It's not actually a spiritual or religious book, it's an agenda. If you look at Western history from the start till today, you see that things go according to the plan. I don't know if you pay attention to such things. There's the slavery part, there's the Genesis part, point of the microchip, and the point of there will be a so-called antichrist that will come and whatnot. All of these things will happen, but it's just a Western civilization. So when you lead a group of people, the people gotta be ignorant. You understand? So
You
everybody is waiting.
Hallelujah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So basically,
let me ask you this then. Do you subscribe then to the tenets of Christianity? Do you see any positive aspects to that, or because of how you broke it
the
down, you just think throw the whole thing away?
I'm not a I was a Christian, but I'm not a Christian. The good thing about Christianity I see is probably morals in society. I see Western civilization, the people are not religious. Now they're becoming immoral. You see, but when they were religious, they were moral. So there's definitely this good aspect of it. But as far as the African, Christianity was brought to him to domesticate him. Was just for
Yep.
brought to him so that he can get access to certain things and get partake into the white colonial system. That's the only reason he's a Christian today.
I know. Excellent points. Excellent points. The Duke, I can see, you caught the Holy Spirit on us. How are you? Caught the Holy Ghost in the chat.
Speaking in tongues. Yeah. How you guys doing?
Yeah, doing well, man. Doing well.
Cool. Can you, or maybe
Yeah.
after, can you tell him to elaborate? What did you mean by Antichrist? What I thought maybe I was gonna elaborate on that part, the whole Antichrist. So does he believe in the Bible or he doesn't? I don't know. You can answer maybe after Duke.
I don't know, Diogo. Do you want to answer now before the Duke
Diogo.
goes? So, yeah.
No, I don't believe. You see, I don't believe in it, but I'm telling you that it's a plan. The Bible is basically a plan of this Western civilizations. You see, it's a plan. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, I'll answer that after the Duke speaks.
Yeah, just walking in, yeah, I will call myself a Christian. I won't say that I'm a very well practicing Christian, but I do believe in the faith. Just to correct someone, someone said European. Jesus, I think no, because he came from the Middle East. He's a Palestinian Jew. He was depicted white. That's it's ridiculous, but people who are smart enough would know he wasn't white. So as in it was basically propaganda that the Europeans used to sort of claim the religion, but it came from the Middle East, just like all the other Abrahamic religions. It stemmed from it and it spread across the world, also Islam and Judaism. So in essence, I don't think Christianity is any different from any other religion. And to be honest, I think Christians aren't any special from people who don't believe in it. Me growing up in the church, I saw no different to people who claim to be worshippers. They weren't any special when it wasn't Sunday during the week. They were doing what people were doing. So some people are, most Christians, I think, are just walk in this world, lying to themselves, to be honest, like myself, So yeah. Any
how do you
questions?
mean, how do you mean lying to yourself? Do you mean in terms of thinking that because you believe in this faith, you're more special than the next person, the next man?
We're all sinners, and it's kind of okay. Like that's what the Christian faith preaches. Like we are all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. Da da da. As in, we should try and strive for perfection and purity, and continue to do so, but never claim as if you're any better than someone who doesn't believe in the faith, you're atheist or whatever. So I've always taken the stance that, look, I'm in no way different. I'm in my own journey in life, and I hope, with the fear of the Lord, I reached that point. But I grew up reading the scripture, and yes, I get what you mean about how it just doesn't make sense. These sound like fairy tales, and so, but then if you think about it, the so-called omnipotent higher being can do anything, but yet we kind of think in a sense that everything should make sense to us. If it's real, if he is real, then we should be able to see him and all of this stuff. You have to kind of think if he is a higher being, a lot of things that are scientifically possible won't be in the same kind of the laws of physics. He can kind of defy all of that, turning water into wine and walking on water, all these miracles we've heard about. Obviously, if he is a god, then it can happen. So when people kind of try and say, how is that possible, we wouldn't be able to prove it ourselves because we're not the higher being. That's my point.
But don't you feel like don't you feel like
yeah, go on.
Don't you feel like that's like the perfect strategy? Like think about it, bro. Think about everything you're saying.
But,
like it doesn't have
no. I get it. I've always kind of debated with myself, if I was an atheist, how could I kind of attack the faith, and then how would I have to defend it? In a way, it's like I don't even want to go on a tangent here, but ask that question again so I can get it.
People that rule the world.
Do you know what it is? I say, Red Pill. This is where I was going to say the difference between black people and how white people believe the religion. That one word, faith. So when I talk to a black person, they'll believe it all by faith. And the Bible dictates faith is
Wait, what makes you? I don't understand, because I went to an international church where basically it was a mixed church. So when it comes to Christianity, white Christians were no different from black Christians. So when you said that, I was very confused, because they, in a way, I've never seen a white Christian try and prove Christianity. And when you say faith meaning that you can't really prove those stories. So a white Christian wouldn't be going around saying, I can scientifically prove that Jesus existed.
When I speak to some white Christians, again, this may be a bit of my bias of obviously who I talk to. You're gonna be just by paradox, but when they talk about the religion, it's in a different way. It's hard to explain it, but
well, give me like an example of what they would say. Yeah,
and there should have been a video that I played at the start of it, but it was a white woman. It was on. Do you know The Big Questions? You know that TV show, The Big Questions?
Yeah.
And they always go. This is one of the questions that they always typically ask. And the white people, what they would do is that they would rationalize their science with the faith, and they won't believe it too far left in a way where black people on the panel, what they would believe it is like it almost happened in the exact same way the Bible depicts it as, in a literal form. And you have to believe it like that, otherwise you don't have that faith. And with black people, they go with that extra mile with it. That's how I've seen it in my life.
Okay.
And it's always a case of extra.
Yeah, I would say that I'll kind of debunk it and say that the people you kind of seen and witnessed, like the whites who did that, were apologetics, and they're all races of apologetics that basically defend the faith when they're in a debate table, like a question time. I watched a lot of these debates, and they kind of contextualize based on historical accounts, Dead Sea Scroll. The average black Christian you might have come across don't know all that type of stuff, like especially any Christian who goes daily. They're not thinking about all these stories intrinsically, but if you want to kind of debate on the way of life and the meaning of life, then you will go into study. So there's like specific university courses where people debate religious education and all these different scriptures of every religion. So if you specialize in that, then you'll be able to have that discussion with someone who is an atheist or something. So I wouldn't put on race. I feel like that's kind of a narrow-minded way of seeing it, because it really depends on who you talk to. A black person can be a philosopher as well in religion, and they could contextualize it a different way. I don't know. I wouldn't say that, but I would say that in general, we're used to, being black, we're used to having family members who are very religious, but they might not be able to explain, their faith or their beliefs, because to them it's more of a experience. And that's what a lot of religion is about. It's not about proving it to anyone. It's about that person's personal experience, growth. They might have come from a life of addiction. They might have come from a life of, doing bad things, being a criminal, and then those people who say they've changed their ways, and you can tell there's they've completely changed their character and they're a good person, and they place it it's because I believe in God, it's because I'm a Christian now, and this and that. So it's like you kind of just have to accept it the way they see it, but they're not going around saying, okay, I've proven that Jesus is real. To them, their own experiences, the proof to the people around them who grew up around them to kind of show what has changed in their life. So that's how I would see it. It's a personal thing.
I get that, and there is an element of you have to have almost there's the individual aspect and the collective aspect. And I suppose for me, it's about the collective aspect as a group of people when we encounter the religion and how the religion was sort of brought about us. I know everyone would always say, well, for me personally, this religion has saved me because of, like you said, my personal experience. I came from this background and that background. And to be fair, substitute anything. It may not have to be religion. It could be any sort of person or any sort of purpose, and that would change their life. Whatever it is that they need to glean to. This is humans. We seem to want to glean to something to give us that purpose. So I totally get that.
Guys, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you guys a question?
Go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So name me one black Christian organization that is a terrorist group. Name me a black KKK group. I want to go back to the point I was trying to make about how black people actually believe in the Bible, white people read it.
I mean, there probably are extremists. I don't know if there's a black group, but they're definitely
Christian
extremists.
Group.
There's definitely extremists out there. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know specific names, but there are definitely extremists out there, especially in the African continent.
Okay,
People
let's
who
not talk about
really,
absolute. Let's not talk like no. I'm talking about a group that we could identify, like look up and like this is some
no, I
guys
haven't
that
read up on one. No.
actively come together as Christian and they cut people's head
Oh
off.
yeah,
Or
definitely. Oh yeah, 100%. It's several African countries where
Oh.
they hunt women and call them witches, and they claim it's a Christian thing.
I'd
There's
say
plenty of
albinos
those.
in East Africa.
Yeah, it's in I think is it Namibia or one of those smaller countries in southern
Tanzania or something
Africa.
like
They've done that, and so it's like, okay, we want to label specific organizations, but we know there are trends of extremists that take it too far. Is practiced in Europe back in the 1700s, but it's definitely practiced in Africa. Someone as like me who is supports the Christian faith, I know they exist. So yeah, what would be your point though?
okay,
Go
at a large,
for it.
do they exist at a? I mean, okay, look, if you guys talking about like maybe a small cult or something, because the thing is,
Yeah.
you're talking about things that you know personally that you probably have seen, right? So you're not talking about something that a large collective of people can say we know that. Like, what's their name? What is the name of this collective group of Christian? No, not Islam, but specifically Christian.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know it
You
off
know what
top.
I
I
mean?
would
And
assume
because the
Hebrew
one we do
Israelites
know.
are a version
No, come
of
on.
that.
I mean, is it going out and killing millions of? Where are they killing millions of what? Non-Christians. Where are they? They
But
go
they're
out.
extremists.
There isn't. Okay, my point is right.
Yeah,
There's a
say what
reason
was
why. Why do you see? There's a reason why you see clan members, right, who are so-called Christians, right? But they do all this horrific stuff. They say they're banning the Jewness, like they do all these messed up things that they know themselves. I mean, deep down in their head, they know Jesus will be against, right? Yet they say that they stand for
Yeah.
Jesus and against the Jew. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like to them, religion is like the Bible is like a comic book and there's the superhero there, and then whereas with us, for most times, we like to follow. Basically, we actually believe in all the morals that come from that so-called comic book. Like we if I'm a murderer, right? If I go out doing bad things, right? I may probably have like I've seen black gangsters, they'll probably have a cross or something. But those guys know very well they're not welcome to the church. Not like someone's gonna push them out, but they know their position in life. They know that I'm not a religious person at all. Like God really goddamn hates me. Whereas in whiteness, there's a sense of I'm kind of doing God's will because to them it's not about what was written down and it's not that, so
You
that's
know,
why I was like,
let me say this. I would say I don't want this race distinction to confuse the topic here. I would say when it comes to that, like the way the Europeans move when they accepted Christianity, because again, Christianity is not a white man's religion. It came from the Arabs, the Middle East, and it spread to Europe. But the thing is, because the Europeans accepted it so eagerly, and to a larger extent than the other regions of the world, because Christianity was actually sent around the world before it hit Europe. Yeah, the Roman Empire adopted it very fast, and even when after the Roman Empire fell, it spread all across north and west of Europe for another throughout the remaining 1,000 years, and that basically cultivated an agenda that the Europeans, basically everything about them was Christian. They integrated Christianity into their government sanctions. The Crusades, that was a very much a European movement.
Yes,
to re-annex Israel. And so they did that throughout time. And then imagine that maybe changed over time, where it's less about faith and religion and more about just their own basically cultivated politics, and it spread throughout the years, like Catholics versus Protestant. I mean, people who know about European history would understand how integrated it was with Christianity. But I won't say that it makes them any different. It's just that they accepted it faster and they've had it a lot longer. Look at the parts of the world where Christianity was there first, like in Constantinople, North Africa, those regions that are now very Islam. were Christian in the beginning. A lot of them were mentioned in the Bible, like the was it?
Ethiopians.
Yeah, the Ethiopians. Then the Turkish were very Christian back then, but that has already faded away. But Europe was the only continent that actually withstanded time, and Christianity basically became a white religion, quote unquote.
But you know, on that
But
on that degree, because I don't
yeah,
want to
go
get
on.
too much off topic, but it kind of falls into how we interpret religion differently as a race. Because
Yeah,
with Christianity and how the Europeans took on it, they took on a lot of their pagan rituals with that. So a lot of Christians nowadays aren't Christians; they're actually pagans. They believe in Christmas, they believe in Easter. These are all things which Europeans believed in before Christianity took hold. So these are things
yes.
like the winter solstice period. These are things like Easter, which is the festa of Esther or something like that. Which again, a lot of these are European traits. And what's interesting to me is that a lot of cultures they take on religion in a different way. So Europeans are all about conquest. So there's no doubt in my mind that when Europeans took that religion, what's one of the things that they did? Conquer the world. So this whole spreading the good news was just a front for their political agenda. But when it comes to worse, we have a different type. I don't know. Again, I'm generalizing here. I'm
I don't think
generalizing.
it's because
It's like the
But you
Empire
don't
of
see
me.
Star
black.
Wars.
You don't see black governments or Christians. I know it's time. Now.
Let's talk about that
Throwing
first
out
because I
throwing out
think
like that. Even
there's
Muslims
a
do the same thing.
scarcity. Sorry, okay. I feel like there's a scarcity in that history. Like people throughout this whole conversation. I know people weren't really identifying actual historical times. So when it comes to, I mentioned in the chat, Ethiopia was the only uncolonized country in the continent, and it was a Christendom. It was a Christian nation, and people would say, okay, it was because they negotiated with Europe. Europe saw the fact that Ethiopia was Christian. They identified that as more civilized because something we can relate to them about. They're Orthodox, or they're like the Russians. Okay, we'll leave them alone and we will conquer everywhere else. Imagine.
Ooh,
Yes, that
I've heard
was.
different stories on that one. I've heard
No,
different
read the
stories.
context of it if you want. But like the
Yeah, go ahead,
British
go ahead.
were the ones who conquered most of
The
Africa and
Italians
basically
apparently they
dominated.
turned their back on Ethiopia because of what they
The-
saw in terms of their practices and stuff.
Well, the Italians wanted to conquer Europe, if you know about the war
Yeah.
between Ethiopia and Italy. But the Western European countries protected Ethiopia by providing them with the funds and the ammunition to keep them, right? Because of that sort of Christian partnership. If you read into the Ethiopian history with Haile Selassie, that's what he did in the world. What do you call it? It's like the UN alternate equivalent back in the 1930s. So when it came to that, their background, because of how Christian they were and connected to the sort of centralized belief systems of Europe, they were protected and basically immune to that conquest. So when people want to talk about how Christianity was used, yes, it was used to conquer Africa, but also it protected a nation that was already Christian. So I've always stretched that if Africa was more Christian in other regions of the continent, we would have been better off because
Whoa,
that
okay.
was used.
Let me
That
unpack
was
that.
used. No, that was used as a
I know,
weapon to weaken us. But if
I
we
get
already
you.
had it, yeah,
Let me ask you- so
then
let me ask
we
you
would
something
not have
then.
been as
Okay.
yeah. Go on.
So that's an interesting thing then, what you said there.
Yeah.
So do you
Okay,
think
but what about Lesotho?
What?
But okay, go on. I
So
was
one
going to
sec,
ask
one
about
sec,
Lesotho
one
and
sec, Red, one sec,
protection.
one sec, Red
Yes.
Pill. Do you think then Christianity then is I almost forgot my question now, but do you see that as it was a good thing that what took place in terms of changing Africans or a lot of to Christianity? Do you see that as a good thing then?
I see that it was unfair we didn't get it before they did. That we didn't accept it before they did. Because, in my opinion, Islam, for anyone else here is Muslim, no offense, but Islam further deteriorated the continent, especially in the north. Of course, the south didn't accept it earlier, but if you look at West Africa, North Africa, Somalia, these areas have always been desolate under Islam. Christianity just pushed the blunt even further because when it came to the missionaries that came from Europe, they basically confused the people, and of course it weakened each tribe and ethnic group, and then they brought the colonial masters in. So I would say this, right? Christianity was used as a weapon, but we could have used it too if we had it earlier, and basically equivalent to what Ethiopia did, protect themselves, use it to negotiate, to trade. That's what religion has always been about when it came to world domination and all of that. Islam was used the same way. If you think of Mansa Musa, the
Listen,
only
I agree.
reason why people
I
don't
was
know
saying,
about
yeah,
it. Yeah, go on.
Thinking
Islam
of
and
it
Christianity
now.
was used.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. Bill.
I was thinking of Mansa Musa when you're talking about Islam, but like he built
Yeah.
this thing was he lasted. So what's your
He
thought on
lasted
that?
because he was able to connect with the Middle Eastern world, and that period was very important for the Islamic world. That period was the what's the term? The renaissance of the
Renaissance
Arabic
period.
world.
Yeah.
And because Mansa Musa accepted Islam and his whole dominion accepted Islam, he was able to connect with the Ibn Salil, or the scholars who came in and actually formed trade with North Africa and West Africa, and basically spread across like the southern East European areas. So I've
I
read
know
into this a lot,
gold,
right?
gold was found there. Like gold and salt was his number one commodity.
It was his thing, and he brought a lot with him when he on his what's the term called, when on his travel, on his voyage. He brought a lot of slaves, hundreds and thousands of
Yeah, he did.
slaves. So if you
And
want to
he
talk
gave
about Mansa
out
Musa,
gold in Egypt. He gave out gold in
Exactly.
Egypt and lowered the price.
yes.
So the
And
dude then.
throughout his he used Islam basically to connect and trade with the the neighbors. Yeah, go on.
So, because I suppose what I'm trying to get at, and obviously you kind of answered it anyway, in terms of you think the continent should have had Christianity way beforehand, and I'm thinking to
Yes.
myself, do you not think that was kind of a strip of what the African people were celebrating or worshiping beforehand in terms of their identity? Because keeping it back to now, religion, all religions have a intrinsic cultural identity within that group of people. For example, if Africans start a religion, or if I start a religion tomorrow, it wouldn't be of a white man, it would likely be of a black guy, because I see myself in my own image. We do that as human beings. So do you not see that Christianity has been used as a way to strip a little bit of identity of African people?
Do you realize that's what Islam did for 400 years before the Europeans came? Because
Oh, no,
essentially
dude,
that's what.
No. I said in the stream, I agree with you. Both, obviously,
Yeah.
Christianity is the title of the stream, but both of them
Islamic
have things
religion
outside.
in general.
So,
I think it's
So
just
yeah.
Islamic
the
religion.
Abrahamic religions was essentially the next trend in human civilizations, conquest. The same thing with how Buddhism dominated in East Asia. You have the Abrahamic religions basically taking over that area. And the reason why, stripping off other people's cultures is one thing, but when you distinguish it between the other Abrahamic religions like Islam, Christianity still allows you to uphold certain cultures, while Islam is like, oh no, you have to do everything just like us. You have to speak Arabic. You have to wear a hijab if you're a woman. You have to. While Christianity is like, you can have your own culture as long as you're not killing and sacrificing your children. And I'll identify. I'm just making a comparison there. My point is that yes, these religions do that, but it's not like the only religion. They've always done that. All belief systems, and it's used for specific nations to kind of conquer another or to trade with another. Let's say my nation is this religion and you have the same religion. We'll collab a lot more against other enemies, like they did in Europe, where the Catholics were against the Protestant nations. It's just how it is. It's like politics. And over time it's changed. Ideology is the same today, like communism and capitalism. I don't want to ramble on, but religion was that source of power in the 1300s, 1400s. But Christianity, I just don't think is any different from any other belief system. It's always been that way.
Oh no,
yeah,
again,
carry on.
like I said, I mean,
So can we go to a conclusion that religion in general is bad
Yeah.
for black people in general? I guess that's where you're trying to go. Like it's because it's all religion basically. Like if
No, I don't think it is. There's the pros and cons. I don't think it is bad. I just think it could be
I was just
weaponized.
saying that because I thought that maybe because the name of the title is Christianity for black people, right, or something like that.
I agree. I agree
For
with
black
that
people,
notion.
Okay, so if we never had Christianity, right, or let's just say hypothetically, Christianity was never brought into Africa. Do you think black people, let's say they still enslaved us and stuff, and maybe I don't know, we still had like some connection to our so-called gods? You think Do you think we'll still have this? I'll pray in order to get my things. Like, do you think we'll still have that attitude where
Let,
it's
let, let
almost
me, from my, being Nigerian, for example, if I didn't have Christianity, if the white man didn't colonize my region, I would still either be Muslim or from a religion called what's it called? I don't even know. It's a voodoo religion
Really, yeah.
in Ife, because I'm Yoruba, and I know Ife has a lot of practices that are very primitive and wrong, and it's still practiced today.
bro?
There were a lot of
Look,
hold on. There were a lot of child sacrifices like 2 centuries ago. There were a lot of immoral things being done within that religion, and I understand that even any religion could have that, any
In the
belief system
Bible,
could
there's a
have
lot
that,
of that stuff.
but I am better off that I'm not Muslim or that, because I've seen those examples too. Visibly, it's not something that just died out. Oh, it's disconnected from that culture. I can see it visibly. Going to the villages, going to the parts of the country that were Muslim. Look what Boko Haram is doing. That's my stance. So I sound biased, but I know the other alternatives, and I'm happy I don't have it.
So, do you think then? Do you think, because this is I've heard this before? Do you think Christianity civilized Africans?
No, no. I just think that we should have had it before they did, because
But it sounds like it. It sounds like the way it comes across.
it's a
It sounds
weapon that we didn't have. We should have had the weapon. Basically,
well,
it's basically
the weapon.
when
It
it
sounds
comes
I
to
get what you're saying. Why it matters?
what to lay
yeah,
down.
Maybe make black people more civil, and maybe instead of like, because how back then they had traditions, even in my culture, vendor culture. I remember in primary school, I had a story about how sometimes kings would need more daughters, so like they'll kill the sons and keep impregnating the widow until they get like more or like if they
wow.
wanted more sons, they would do that, such things. So yeah, I guess in a way, kinda did civilize people in a way. Like it's
Mm,
messed up. Like it's a messed up thing, but then you're right, dog. Like sometimes the alternative could sometimes be worse. So
mm.
I mean, here's what I say when it comes to the religion. Islam is just a medieval Christianity. So if anyone knows anything about the history of the Old
Yep.
Testament and the Bible, all Islam
Good
is,
point.
it's not a secularized version. Because if you are a true Christian, a lot of things that people do today, they won't be doing it. But because of how Christianity's evolved and secularized, if you know anything about Henry VIII and how we split the church, and again, they were talking about the Crusades and how things were medieval back in those days, whereas Christianity is really, really evolved. And a lot of the Christianity that we believe today, it won't be the case sometimes even 30 years ago or 40 years ago. So I do believe a lot of Christianity evolves with the time, whether that's good or bad. People believe you can be gay and still be a Christian. People still believe you can be a woman and be a preacher. There's so many things which Christianity,
Lord of mercy.
well, I know, there's so many things that
you could be gay.
Christianity,
You could be gay. You could
Oh,
be gay.
Lord of mercy.
exactly. And
And
this
like,
is
what do you think, guys? What do you think, people? Right? Remember the little Nas X thing?
Oh,
Right?
Holy Ghost fire.
Yeah. But like, what do you think that triggered so many black people, right? Because I don't know who said it here before, like the fact that majority of us are not actually, I mean, majority of black people, obviously, are not actually practicing Christianity. Because first of all, most of them have sex before marriage, right? Which is also a problem for the Abrahamic religion. They have sex before marriage. They do all of these things, right? And then say, I've really had a guy on Clubhouse saying, you're an atheist. Not to me, but to this other guy, like, you're an atheist and you're going to go hell. That's why you're a bad person. And then he goes back into insulting other black women. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, they do, it's like they like to pick and choose
Red
what
Pill,
is.
do you think only black Christians behave that way? Or
No,
is
no,
that what you're
no. In
saying?
fact, white people are probably worse. But what I'm trying to say
Mm.
is, why do you think we are so selective on? Like, it's almost like we want to tell God that this is way worse than what? Why do you think it's like that with black people? Like, I know subconsciously that's not what they're doing, or this trying to do, but it's almost like they're trying to tell God, I know that this for you is way worse, even though I'm sure he sees both sins the same, right? Like, you still be a drug dealer or do all of this messed up thing, but you think Lil Nas X and him being gay is way worse than you killing people or lying or stuff. What do you think that is?
I would like to start off with the Lil Nas X thing. I think he's a creative guy. He's a good artist, but when it comes to his lifestyle, of course, the only reason why people are angry, I won't even put it on Christians, just black people, because when it comes to hip hop in the West, it's like it's always been the macho thing. It's like black guys are kind of seen as
But
in a certain light,
okay,
but then because he comes with a more effeminate approach, we've barely seen that before. There are some gay rappers, but he came in full force and hit the charts very fast. So people are like worried, oh, where's this going? Is it going to change the culture? But religion, of course, religious people are always going to be like, no, that's all immoral, even if he wasn't gay. All the
It's the thing, though. I think,
swear words and all the
yeah.
what,
I
what
think,
I'm gonna say this and I'll shut up, guys. I was just
Mhm.
gonna say, look at the effects that Lil Nas X did. You had pastors, right, making streams like 4-hour streams talking about him dancing on the devil, and then there's so many real fucked up things that are happening in their communities. They probably has a drive-by that happened the day before, and they'll be talking about Lil Nas X. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a selective thing with with religion, and then you
Yeah.
hear. I know I don't want to go into this topic, but when I hear someone like that Fabo Boosie talking about what about the kids, she made me laugh. Man. There's a drug killing. It's just the
Uh,
guy talks about killing and stuff, talking about like, what about the kids, man? What about what the
mm,
and this guy paid a prostitute to suck his son's dick. It was 12
bro,
years old.
that's
Like, you know what I mean? And it's this thing that nobody's gonna call that. You won't see pastors making 4-hour streams on that. And I feel like some guy actually said this, like he actually exposed a lot of the so-called Christians in a way. He kind of did. But go on. That's all I want to say, Duke. I
yeah,
won't say anymore.
no, I mean,
that's cool.
what I'll
I
say to
will.
all that is, I mean, and people are hypocritical by nature. So people will pick and choose what they do believe. But one thing about that little Nas X is, just to wrap up on that, I suppose, is to say black people in general are homophobic. If you look at a lot of black nations, you can't even be openly gay without being persecuted. I looked at it; it can be imprisoned, like in the Caribbean, in a lot of African nations, even put to death if you are caught in an act of homosexuality. So black people as a whole, they do seem to have an issue when it comes to this homosexuality, which seems to be more deep rooted than a lot of other cultures. At least in expressing certain things which goes against the grain of the whole masculine traits. So there just seems to be a bit like that, which I've seen from a whole host of black nations across the globe. So that's what I've.
Yeah, I would say like Uganda hits the top of the charts when it comes to that. Why are you gay? You are gay.
Yeah,
Like,
very
there's
much.
whole memes about them.
So
They're the
don't be
most
gay.
homophobic.
Don't be gay.
Yeah.
Why are you gay?
Why you? I mean, no joking. Joking aside, like yeah, homophobia is definitely big in the continent. When it comes to Christians, I walked in the panel saying that we're all sinners. I've said that Christians are no different from non-believers because all that
don't believe
nonsense.
that, do you?
What do you mean, Christians?
Yeah, you don't believe that, do you?
No, I fully believe that.
Okay.
I believe that I can go to hell today, even if I believe Jesus. That's the point of like me walking here. Is like, don't even listen to Christians. I'm saying that look, it's definitely a personal journey when it comes to your beliefs. If I believe in Jesus, it's my personal journey. People can judge if they want, but the scripture says if you want to judge, well, judge yourself first, in those lines. So I would say when we talk about religion, like, Christianity like this, I always come in saying that even Christians will fall short of any golden sticker. So when I hear Christians talk about their immorality and how they're trying to reach a higher moral ground and whoever they're arguing with, I just look at them and laugh because it's not your place to point out things about people. I mean, pastors would do that. They'll have services like that, and they're hypocrites themselves. I think they're the worst. Molesters, child molesters, they're there. I'll call it out as well. You know what I mean?
The black one's fucking white.
My question,
yeah.
my question is this though. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but then I'm like, for me, who else is going to tell you? God ain't going to come down off his high horse and tell somebody you're doing wrong. Some human being has to tell someone you're wrong. We have laws in every country that tells you cannot do this. So
I would say,
that kind of stuff.
I think right now I've noticed the focus is on Christians rather than on Christianity. So they're definitely a bad example. I'm a bad example of a Christian. And to be honest, there's no other Christian who could sit there and talk about how, oh yeah, I can speak on this because I know better. No. So I would definitely put it on the Bible. That's why I came in. It's like, you said that even the scripture we're reading has a lot of stories that sound ridiculous. So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm coming in saying, that's what I rely on. I don't rely on people who, priests or pastors to tell me what right from wrong. But I'm saying that, I'm following a belief system based on this book. So yeah, we can talk on that.
You're definitely a new age Christian. I'm telling you right now, dude.
I
You're
won't
some
call it a new
Christian.
age. I think a realistic one. I'll think a realistic one. I don't
Okay.
speak the rhetoric that you hear a lot of people do because they learned that from Sunday school. Like I was very into that when I was a kid. I've read the Bible 3 times, in and out. So, but I'm not gonna boast about it because I know I'm not a special good Christian. I know I felt like that when I was younger, but I realized more is more than just knowing everything word for word. It's like, are you living a life around people who don't believe in, like, that's what it kind of promotes too. Christianity promotes being around people who are sinners, like Jesus did when he was around, prostitutes and thieves. I want to be around people who don't believe those things and practice what I preach and be honest. So I'll call myself out, Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I don't. Maybe I'm a bad example of the type of Christian you want to hear. You know what I mean?
No, it's not a bad example. It's
But,
just the reason why I say this
yeah.
because, and the reason I say new age is because that kind of rhetoric is what I hear. When this is why I say a lot of Christians aren't Christians. They're Christians in name only. And I'm not trying to judge you at all, because it is what it
What
is.
makes a Christian though? I'll answer that.
By their works, by how they behave, as opposed to what they
Okay,
say.
what would I need to do to because I've already said what I say.
Well,
so
this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
the
So
works.
it's not about. I suppose not. It's not take it from you or take away from you, but in terms
Okay.
of lifestyle, let's say lifestyle. Let's use that example in terms of how they live, how they act, how they interact, that kind of stuff. But even way back when, like you said, hypocrites. The reason why you use that word hypocrite is because that person's saying something but not living what they're saying.
Yeah.
So everything's about your lifestyle and how you live and how you are, as opposed to what you say.
They could
So
also it could also look like they're living that life, like visibly,
100%.
dressing a certain way and then behind closed doors behave a certain way. So me saying that, okay, you call
Do you
it
guys
new
know
age
Bushiri?
Christian.
Before
Sorry?
going, do you guys know Bushiri? Do you know Bushiri?
Bushiri. No.
Do you guys know? Wait, what about you? Wait, matters.
No, I think I heard of it, but I don't. Not really.
What's that?
It's a maybe I shouldn't be saying this. He was a South African pastor who actually I think he was banned in the US. He was also a corrupt guy. He did a lot of mess up. You should look him up. Just look up Pastor Bushiri.
Did he bless women by doing something to them or something? Was it that one?
No, yeah, but he did a lot of things, but he wasn't famous for that. What he was famous for is that he was money laundering. He made a lot of money from South Africans because he even said it himself. The difference between, I think he was from Malawi. He said the difference between South Africans and Malawans is that Malawans believe in God and South Africans believe in miracles. That's what I mean, South Africa.
That's the pastor that was flying, that pretended he could fly.
Yeah. The one was flying.
Yeah, I seen that.
Oh my god!
He's banned in your country, man. He's not. I heard he's not allowed in the US. Like the thing is, right? You could actually see the guys in the video, right? You could see the guys who are holding him as he's like. Basically, what he does is that he's on a bunch of stairs, right? So he's like walking on air, but you can almost see the buff guys holding. It's like they concentrate on his feet, and so like he's on the air, but he's actually holding like a pole or something. So his feet are like almost like they're walking on air or something. So they don't consider the whole body, just the feet. And I'm like, you have to be an idiot to believe this shit, bro. Because you can even see the shadows of the people who are carrying it. You could see them. And I'm telling you, bro, this guy lasted on for the next 8 years. But he exposed himself so much that I don't know, bro. Like I genuinely don't like that shit made me process a lot about how powerful.
And this is what happens when a lot of not just him, that Kedu. Thank you for putting that clarity there. But even like I don't want to get in trouble with anyone here, but Pastor like TB Joshua and all these kind of people here who claim to do these miracles. And you know how people want to believe that you can heal someone. People believe that all these things happen. It's like it's when you look at the psychology of it all, and a lot of it is because again, people are vulnerable. And this is what I mean when I say sometimes these religious aspects, how they control you, how they make you out to be something that it's not, depending how you believe and how it's preached. You're thinking, how does that get allowed at all by any sane, rational person? Who can believe this kind of stuff? But you wrap it around the context of a religion, people will believe some of the craziest things you've never heard in your life. And when you try and speak to them, say, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a barrister, how are you believe in this? Well, you know, I'm like, okay, but it boggles the mind. Is it just me?
I mean, I work in a science field, and I would say there are definitely a lot of people who, you know, still have religious views, Christian or Muslim, and it doesn't conflict with their work. I mean, you know, I'm a sci-fi, you know, astrophysics fan. Like, I'm into stars, science, not star science. I'm into planets and, you know, astronomy, not astrology. Don't mistake me for that. But but I'm at the same time I believe in God, because I feel like they can. Oh yes, like him, basically the science guy. You know, I'm that too, but I still believe in a God at the same time. I don't think there's.
You know what you do? I think you do something that a lot of smart people do. You compartmentalize. So what you do is you say this. This is kind of, again, I'm just this one. I'm hyper. I used to be like this. I would say that's my faith. I'm going to put that to a side. But this is like the real world now. So in the real world, I'm going to use mathematical equations. I'm going to use scientific exploration. I'm going to use what the real world determines I need to do to believe in it. But when it comes to my faith, I'm going to just sidestep it and believe it. I don't know what it is.
It's close. It's close.
Neil deGrasse Tyson talked about what you said. Guys are saying, like he said, this other head of like medicine somewhere is like obviously he's like a super Christian. He goes to the woods, does all this prayer stuff. But even him, if you ask him, does not believe the universe was created in 7 days. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Like
that's different from you're nearly there. Like both of you, the way you described it, nearly there. The way I see it, I'm not like putting my faith to the side. It's more like I see my faith in a different like dimension. Like there's no way science, the way it exists now, is gonna fit in with the laws of the Christianity or the, you know, with the laws of physics, because it's not in the same. It doesn't need to be in the same place. Like, how can someone who could defy the laws of physics be explaining in science? Because that won't make sense. It won't work out the same way, if you get what I mean.
I do. If
the only thing that defies the laws of physics is imaginary, bro. Like,
actually,
a god.
Here's the thing about science, right? That nobody ever processes. You see a microchip, like a basic microchip. Like I studied electronic engineering. A microchip, in its essence, is basically think of it as a bunch of clips, right? Yeah, like electric. Think of it as a bunch of switches, right? Switches that are triggered by electricity, just small amount of volts, very, very small amount of volts, placed in a particular way, in a way that me as a red pill can now be processed at nano milliseconds, bro. Like this, just the fact, what I'm trying to say is the fact that microchips work just shows you that the laws of physics exist and they're strict, because these things are happening in micro levels. So the universe is obeying the laws of physics in micro. It's not saying I'm deciding not to send a volt or whatever, right? And this is the thing I feel like maybe that's why it's hard for me to believe in it. Like the fact that science is so deep embedded into all our lives. You know what I mean? It's so deep embedded into all our lives that to tell me that these two things live in separate universes, how do you even identify this thing that does not obey the laws of physics? You know what I mean? Unless it's imaginary. You know,
that's the thing about the way I see science is functional. It's something we could manipulate to create what we need. We're not actually creating anything. We're generating one thing from another. So we're converting every energy of form into another, and that's one thing. That's really what we have. Right. This is something tangible to us, but you can't imagine there is a God. Just think about it. An omnipresent God who can do anything. I think people can't comprehend what that means. Is that, okay, if he does exist and he's not making himself obvious to us, then obviously what we consider science is not in the same prism as a higher being. But I don't. That would take too long to sit on. You know, like, what's the meaning of life? You know,
I was on that same boat you on the Duke in terms of God exists outside of time and space. Therefore, the laws do not apply to him. Therefore, to comprehend it, and I hear all of it, and
That's what the scripture says. But
well,
yeah,
the only reason why I say that is because it's very rare that I see people nowadays because doing the things that not just Jesus did, but other people did in the Bible. Moses did this, and there's so many things where you can go through on the list of the Bible. Where forget Jesus for a second. Apparently, his believers did these wonderful miracles, which I don't see replicated. Or when I hear it, I'm like, it's fake.
But
No,
it's like
you're
you're separating. You're separating the like, okay, an omnipresent God who can do anything and use a person and use his power to make that person do that thing.
Yep.
So Moses can have this staff and split the Red Sea. That's impossible on his own.
But
So yeah.
but is the Bible
today,
supposed to be taken literally though?
I take it literally. Yes.
Okay, so because I'm a Christian, right? I consider myself a Christian, but I don't take the Bible literally. Like I don't take the story of, for example, like you just said, Moses with his staff splitting the Red Sea and walking through I don't take that as a literal depiction of what happened. Like I believe there's nothing new under the sun. So what was then is now. So if he could do it then he should be able to. Then those miracles should be able to happen now.
Yeah,
I believe that it was
though.
a metaphor for something. At least that's how I read the Bible. You know what I mean? And that's how
I think most Christians do. I've had conversations with peers who are believers. They don't really want to comprehend those extra things, but I take it literally because it's like those things happened at the time because there was a purpose for it. It's not like a random miracle. Like God says, I'm going to decide this person's going to be a prophet and he's going to do certain things at that time. Why wouldn't he do it today? Is because there's no need for a Moses. We don't need a Moses, and we don't need.
Are you sure?
To split the Red Sea.
So,
We don't.
so you think Boko Haram and all
we
this,
don't need
like,
a Moses.
all the Native Americans that were murdered and the Australians, like God was like, nah, it's still not needed right now. We still don't need a miracle.
Forgotten who Jesus is.
No, they don't deserve to live. So God doesn't think Native Americans deserve to live.
If Jesus didn't come yet, then we would have had reoccurring prophets. Like that's legit what he did throughout the series of the Bible.
Even after Jesus
came. No, but then after Jesus came, it's over. We're done.
What I'm saying to you is, you think
the apostles were just teachers,
analogy, right? Okay, let's accept what you're saying. It's not Jesus is not a need anymore right now, right? Let's say that, right? So what you're saying right now is God allowed those two gene pools to be wiped out of Earth because for some reason that's what okay, cool. I just want to hear that.
So are you talking about like with the Noah situation where the flood and all of that?
Yeah, the most Native Americans and the Native Australians specifically.
What? Wait, what? What does the Native Australians and Americans have to do with that? What do you mean?
No, I'm saying that they don't exist anymore. I said their gene pool is gone. I mean,
you mean genocides?
Genocide, yeah.
Genocides existed throughout time, even after Jesus. Yeah, but that's how I.
So you're saying that Jesus accepted that those gene pools, I mean,
those gene because Aboriginals still exist. There are still. I don't know what you mean by wiped out because there's still Native Americans and there's smaller numbers of them.
Let's stop talking about the minority.
But it's confusing when you say wiped out. It means they don't exist anymore. Genocides, murders, pillaging, killing. Throughout centuries. What are you talking about? Yeah, murders happen. But are you saying that God should stop murders because of what? Because what? We still live on the earth he talks about. We still live on the earth.
The thing is,
he's been talking about. Do you know what I mean?
It
hasn't ended. Exactly. The end of time isn't here yet, but still sin is still on this planet. You know what's the confusion in that?
I remember in high school, right? I watched this film. This shit made me feel sad, dog. And I think maybe it's the one thing that kind of made me a little more hateful on religion in general, make me believe it doesn't exist as much. And to be honest, it was because I watched this movie called 12 Years a Slave, man. I don't know if both tap, you know it.
Yeah. I seen it.
Yeah.
We watched it.
And then I saw that white man peeling that black woman's skin off, bruh. Shit made me cry, bruh. And I'm like, that shit really happened to, like obviously other things also happen in Africa, but I'm just saying in general, such things happen, and these people had the Bible before. Like, what do you think? I want to ask Bo to tap about this. What do you think about it?
So I'll let Bo speak one second, so I know because you've not really said anything. But one thing I'll say, Red Pill, about the Bible, if you believe in it, is you do know that God himself endorsed genocide. If you believe in the Bible and read it in its literal form,
Exactly.
the children of Israel, they murdered to get onto their land right now. They murdered a whole group of people. So God has always been about murder, warfare, vengeance. So, you know, when that's why sometimes I'm like, how can we as a group of people really take it the way it's taken and not feel a little bit like Jesus? Could we have been in the Bible as an example of being enslaved? You know what I mean? I don't know. But
you actually make me think about that. Like maybe we are the enemy in a way, and we don't know it of the Bible. But yeah, so Boutros, you can answer that question.
Well, I'm gonna say in context of that time, I would say they used the Bible to almost use. I can't quote the exact scriptures or whatever, but they almost justified slavery through the Bible. You know what I mean? Even black people, like they considered us to be cursed and the Hamites or whatever it is that they use to justify it. But they use the Bible, you know, to justify slavery, and you know.
But my point, Botep, what I want to leave on is the fact that,
and I'm not saying whether or not it's right or wrong, because evidently I believe it's wrong. I'm ADOS, you know. I come from that lineage of people, you know what I mean? So I'm not endorsing it. But I mean, you say, how can they do it? And they believed in the Bible. But people can take selective scriptures and quotes in the Bible to justify anything. They do it, you know what I mean? And that goes with any religion, you know what I mean? They can use whatever verses from the Bible or hadiths or scripts from the Quran to justify doing almost anything a lot of times.
So I'm gonna ask everybody here. So would you guys believe that there's a Holy Spirit out there? What I was gonna lead on Botep was, why didn't the Holy Spirit convince that slave owner, like, yo, you gotta stop? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, the Holy Spirit was like, I'll just mind my own business on these blacks.
No, I believe the Holy Spirit is what allow ADOS people to endure slavery and make it through and overcome slavery. You know what I mean?
But that's what you were told. You were told that you have to accept this. This is God's law. You have to accept the beatings. Like, look, I get it in a way, but then don't you ever feel like there's a lot of indoctrination that happens to all of us, in fact, right? The fact that we have to suffer, yet they haven't, yet they own everything, they run everything.
Who's they?
I'm just saying white people in general, right? Like they don't have this concept of you have to suffer and pull through with the suffering and things are gonna get better. They never actually, like, I'm saying as a collective, all of them. Do you guys know Cecil John Rhodes? Do you guys know him?
Yep.
This is one famous quote he said. He said, if you, young man, if you're an Englishman, I'm quoting him but not directly, you young man as an Englishman, just know that you have won the lottery of life. He said that while he was in, obviously, the Cape in South Africa. Like, you know what I mean? And he meant that, bro. Like, these people, we're talking about the people that indirectly won the lottery of life, and they're telling you that you have to wait for your time, even though they never waited for their winning of the lottery.
I mean, at that time where they was at, he was in that position where it was, you can say, you know what I mean? I don't think that's necessarily applicable now to all white people, you know what I mean? And it wasn't applicable to all white people then, you know. But back to the original point though, I mean, it's all about what you read the Bible for, or what you believe in Christianity for, what you're looking for it for. So some people are, like you see in Africa, right? Like they're susceptible to those scams and miracle preachers that preach, because they're in the position in life where they want to believe in miracles and they can come out of their position. Or you got people who just live in the West and just read the Bible as a manuscript to kind of like guide your life by, you know, to maintain a certain order and just govern your life, you know, and have faith and be able to overcome whatever little adversities you go through, you know, without losing your mind, you know what I mean? So, you know, faith is a strong thing, you know, and a lot of people that don't have faith, you know, that's when you see people jumping off of buildings, committing suicide because they give up on life. You know, once they come into those positions where they up against certain adversities, you know, they don't have that faith, that moral code or whatever to believe that they'll be able to overcome it and that it's just a part of the journey.
But majority of white people, I don't know in the UK, you guys, do they believe in God? I know in the US they don't. Majority
Yeah,
of them
but
don't.
you talking about white people though. But I mean, white people are white people. Some white people believe in niche and you know what I mean. Just they're hedonistic and they don't believe in nothing. Like I don't think white people
I'm talking
are
about like
the.
51%, at least 51%. 51. I once read. I was reading this book. Yeah, I remember now. It was a tech book, right? It was the Fang about the big horsemen, the four horsemen, and then this guy said 50% of Americans in general go to church, and then but I never looked it up, so I'm just quoting that guy. Scott Galloway. Scott Galloway was it? He said 50% of Americans go to church, and 52% of Americans own an Amazon Alexa or something. But that was his quote. Like, I'm just thinking about that. Like, if majority of obviously, I've noticed that majority of white people in general do not believe in this God. Yes, and most of them, some of them, when they are facing extreme measures, they commit suicide, but yet their race is still winning. Like, don't you guys ever feel like it's funny how people always lead to that? I'm just going to what Botep was saying, like the whole you need God in order to live and survive, but yet you still have a race that technically doesn't actually believe in a God, but most of them are not committing suicide because they've put themselves in a position in life that they have won the lottery of life. Yeah, so
I say,
something.
I think I've got a lot of answers, but I don't want to take over the panel because you're coming from a lot of assumptions. Because I don't think it's that like white people aren't this sort of winners throughout time. What are you trying to assume? What I understand is that Western Europe has dominated. You get it? Western Europe has dominated the last 500 years, but it wasn't the same thing like 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, it's a different region of people. So when I think of history like that, I don't think that white people are this sort of unique species of our race where they benefited even though they act differently in religion.
Like Duke, let's be honest.
Nowadays you make it sound like there's this. Are you serious?
Yeah, there's the big sad difference, right? White people can at least remove emotions when they're trying to build something, meaning they can come together.
Now you're creating, because that's a lot of pseudoscience, bro. Because I don't know where you got that from. There's no science to back that up. Like, what are you talking about? Emotions, to remove emotions from production?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay,
that's why Nigeria, South Africa, all of our African countries are like this. It's all about tribalism and feelings and what all this, and these are things that I've heard from obviously another guy from the UK.
Essay, bro. Like we live in Europe. There's tribalism here too. World War I, World War II wasn't for random stuff, bro. It's literally the same thing. The shit that's happening in Africa is just at a higher magnitude. They have power and currency, yes, but we don't. We're just poorer. We're no different from them. It's just that they have the power right now. That's just how I've seen it. You know, if you read into history, they're no different.
You don't think Africa's problems are self-inflicted?
In every place, yes. I think it's the same in every country, in every nation. We're just poor.
Europe, man, come on, dog. I understand that.
Do you know that Europe used to be poor and desolate? Do you know that? Do you know about the Dark Ages? You do know that Europe went through a phase of themselves.
And do you know the reason why
we're talking about currently, man? You keep referring to
but then you make it sound like they're separate. They went through their period. We've going through ours now, but there was a time we weren't going through the same type of shit. It's just a cycle.
Before colonization, Africans were fighting. You know this, man.
I know, but you make it sound like we're completely different from them. They're human like us.
Here's what I say, and I suppose just to what the Duke is saying, Red Pill, is if you look through European history throughout time, there's never been a time where Europeans have never really fought each other. Like Brits have taken over France, Spain. There's been the conquest. There's always been infighting. The difference is at the moment white people have seemed to just on top. So I think Red Pill's note, white people are on top right now. So that's where he's seen it from.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but it's not because they're special. It's just they're on top right now. It's like it takes a while for that transition. It could be East Asia, it could be China next that will dominate the planet. You know, so it's like
he was here, man. He would
but
tell you.
Do you know what I think there's a chronic condition between black people in Africa and everywhere where we think that other groups are different from us just because of what we're going through today. And I think it's a problem we need to fix when we teach ourselves human history. There's nothing different about us. And it gets frustrating.
There are differences. Biologically, though.
Oh my God. We're still human.
Well, yes.
Are you you said, I know you said it before, why it matters. You said it, you made it sound as if we have a lower IQ on average because we're biologically different. But when you know there are certain factors that play along in that, and we're not all the same on the continent. Or are we literally the same thing homogeneously? So it's like I hear a lot, and I'm actually getting tired of it. I'm going to leave soon. But it's hard to listen.
No. I don't want to look. I'm not saying obviously there's smart black people, right? It's not that we're dumb, isn't like.
Hold on, how do we get into
smart
IQ
black
here?
people exist? That's not the thing. The thing is, black people, for most part, and this is just honestly, black people do not pedestalize intelligence. We don't, right? We pedestalize words. And I've said this before, and it's the goddamn truth. Right?
Maybe in South Africa, but I don't know.
This is why the smartest. No. Let's be honest. The smartest. I don't know. Why are there so many Nigerian doctors in the US? Why are the smartest of Nigeria going to the US right now? And you know the thing is, I'm sure if a Nigerian doctor.
Why? Answer that, please. Answer that. I want to know. I don't get what you mean, but answer that.
No. Look, I'm not really. By the way, I'm not trying to target Nigeria per se.
No, I know, but I want to understand what makes you think that the smart people have left to the Western countries. Like, what's special about that?
Because Africa does not have opportunity. Because
it's poor right now. Yes, literally, most of our countries are 60 years out of colonization. 60 years max, and then even South Africa, apartheid, 25 years. So it's like it's gonna take some time, bro.
Why do Africans always take away accountability? Like you see this thing.
Wait. I want you to listen carefully, bro. What I'm saying is, shit like this takes time. Building civilization takes time. So when we compare ourselves with westernized countries that maybe obviously establishes that 300-400 years ago, compared to countries that were already beaten down and colonized to start again, and now you're comparing a 50-year-old country to an empire. It's like, come on. I think we have to think deeper than that.
So it takes time for us to stop concentrating on the BS, concentrating on things that do not matter. Think about what you're saying.
For example, I'm Nigerian. For example, I'm Nigerian because the region that I'm from was named Nigeria by British people. I was not culturally Nigerian until 70 years before. It takes time, like my tribe and all of that. It's like we're evolving over time, generation after generation. Medical doctors wasn't a thing in Nigeria until recently.
We're evolving. Like what somebody said, we're not in a mental state where we can do something. We have to evolve.
No, I did not say mental state. I did not say mental state. I'm talking about.
Can we try and get back to the topic? We've sort of gone way off topic.
Bro, I'm gonna leave now. This was a good conversation, but I am getting fed up with how black people talk about things when we're not very well informed. So I'm confused by this conversation because it's like,
I don't know what are people
talking about?
Sorry. Let me go back to we can close it now.
But see you later.
There is some biological reason why I say we're different. Okay, now whether we're worse or not, I said different. There's something different. The word different doesn't mean worse or better. It just means different. And there are biological truths to the reason why the whole construct of race is not social. There are biological traits.
But the only reason why I brought that was my point is this: we're still a human family. We're not a distinct species of people, and those biological deviations do not jump us away from like our own demise or our own differences in power and all of that stuff. So it's like when we create these ideas, it sounds like we're only taking from what we're seeing around us or what's been happening in the last 20-30 years. We don't actually realize that all of that takes time. It's like we are the poorest on the planet, not because we're black. I don't know what else I'll leave it before my head does explode, man. Good night, guys. But I hope we have this convo.
Absolutely. Because there's some evidence I'll come back. But yeah, anyway, thanks to Duke. And that's one of the things which, to kind of wrap up Red Pill, let me ask you this question then. Are poor people more prone to religious aspects?
I was actually gonna go into that topic, but I decided to close it. Yeah, I was actually gonna lead into that. That there's a reason why majority of the poor are really religious, because they have to be. Right? You really have to be. You have to believe that there's something out there that's gonna save you from this situation. And I'm not saying maybe you can't save you. Duke said this thing, right? The fact that with religion, it actually helps with people not committing suicide. I feel like if poor people were not religious and were actual atheists, most of them would actually commit suicide. They would. So at that point, it does play a part into why actually they think they still choose to be alive. Also,
yeah, it's possible because even rich nations, themselves, they call themselves Christians, but I don't know. I think they have a new way again, like the Duke was saying, how he believes it. I think there's a new age type of way of believing in the religion in terms of how other nations believe in it. I could be wrong, but again, they're more susceptible. Some of the more scams, which a lot of rich nations just generally won't be. It's like you won't really get in westernized nations, people necessarily falling for the scam of you're a healer there. Or
Bushiri, you mean the Bushiris, the whole walking on air while you see the shadows of the. Yeah, right. They won't happen.
It's normally
You're
poor
right.
people in the Western
I live
nations.
with,
But
I live
it's
with
just
certain white people that this is a joke, bro. You know what I mean? It's a joke, and then I get that. Yeah, a lot of Afrikaners are racist. A lot of the things when they go to other countries, they show them like this is what. Like there are videos right now you can check online of black people being told to go eat grass because I blessed it with Holy Spirit. And you see, like in South Africa, pastors telling people to go eat grass. Don't eat it. They'll goddamn eat it, man. And for some reason, I'm supposed to act like this is not happening. Right? Like I'm not living in a world where my people are so controlled by this. And sometimes I'm scared to say that it's not a religious thing, but it's just a black thing and religion in general. Like, it's not a Christian thing, sorry. It's a religion thing. Like we're so attached to it. Like
okay. It's interesting.
yeah, man. I don't
I
know.
do
What
think.
do you think about that? When you see people eat grass, what do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know. I think that's just individual. I do see different cultures. How I think culturally people react to their religion slightly a bit differently. Because again, when you look at Islam, and how that was brought across to people, I don't know. I just think a lot of things which, do you know, when you look at the religious text and you really read it, you can't believe it literally with a straight face. You have to take a bit of metaphorical viewpoints to it, and you can't attach the same things like you attach to things that you know now. There's no way near someone can tell me that they can split the Red Sea. There's no way near someone can tell me that they can turn water into wine, and yet that was done way back then. But now all of a sudden now it doesn't happen now. I don't know. I don't see it that way at all.
Yeah,
So
so called in the 19 whatever that time was, the laws of physics were a lot different, and now they just decided to change.
well, again, depends how you believe it. Depends how you believe it. It's God did those things. So God was able to bend the laws of physics. God was able to bend the laws of time to suit that purpose, which is fine. It's just, how is it that nowadays we still don't see that? Are we telling me that nowadays we don't need these sort of things because Jesus has arrived? Yet and still, if you read the Bible, there were so many more miracles that took place after it's like, I don't know. It's just the way how it gets interpreted and seen. To each their own. People believe what they need to believe to get through the day, and I don't even hold anything back against that. If that makes you a better person,
I'm not telling anyone to stop being Christian. You can be. I'm just saying this is the questions I ask. You're right. Like, to each his own. You guys can be Christian. If you are a full Christian, be proud and be Christian, man. I was just asking relevant questions like, why is this like this? Why is that like that? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Right. So what I want to do now, because getting to that time, it's been 2 hours, so I want to end the stream. Thanks, Red Pill, for coming up. Thanks to Duke. So
Cool.
yeah, thanks for coming up. I appreciate everyone here. Make sure always forget to say this. Make sure you do
Yes,
like the
and
stream,
petrol.
subscribe
Yes,
if
he's
you are
right.
new.
Kaduk, he's right. Yeah, the pastors in SA, they tell people to drink petrol and even doom. What's doom? Pesticides. Yeah,
Pesticides.
they pray on the pesticides. Yeah, in Africa, this is what Africans do. They pray on the pesticides, and you see an entire field church of people say, "Yes, bring the fire." Then he comes there in their face, and they open their mouth and they
Really?
give them holy.
My God, geez.
So your people, man. These are your people. So you're normal human beings.
I don't know how people can get away with that still. And I don't know, not being in jail or something like that for telling people to drink petrol and bleach. That's for me, that's like attempted murder. So yeah. I'll
Is
let
it
that
matter though? Like, is it? That's the thing. Is it matter when you said give it to me? Like, you know what was inside it, and you said give it. Is it? You know what I'm saying? And this is why it's hard to even arrest such people, because they actually wanted it.
I mean, I would put it down as attempted murder. I would, because you know better, and you're almost tricking somebody into doing something which you know is going to be detrimental to them. I mean, you tell people to drink petrol, and they believe that you are sent from God. For me personally, yeah, I'll put that down as attempted murder. So I'm just like, bro, that's
You
that's
don't
what it is.
believe
Even though that
God
person, you can say agreed to it, that's murder. That's attempted murder. That is.
You don't think God changed the laws of physics on that petrol and then?
Well, I tell you what. If you believe that, then you be the first person to drink that petrol. But on that note, though, I keep forgetting there was a again. This is in the West. Oh, I forgot what his name was. It was a person who told everyone to drink cyanide, and that there was basically they drank poison. And again, this was in the West, to be fair. So this was a rich nation, and they believed that by drinking this poison, they would be with their Lord and Savior. So bro, it's
Those know it's suicidal. I'm talking about that guy is praying on the pesticide.
oh, I know, yeah.
It comes Holy Spirit. They are not expecting to die. That's the thing. They're expecting to get a Range Rover the next week from God's the Holy Spirit and the Holy pesticide and the Holy petrol. And that's the weird thing I always find about these pastors in Africa. It's always you're gonna get materialistic things on earth too. They really talk about heaven. They'll talk about, if you pray, I'm telling you, this one person he gave out on collection. That's what they call it, right? I forgot the English word where they give out money to the church. What do you call that?
Oh, tithes.
Tithes, yes. Like, if you give out this much tithes, you're gonna wake up tomorrow and you just wait. Like, they'll tell you this. I remember going to this church. It's like, you're gonna wake up tomorrow and just find 20,000 in your bank account, and then you're gonna, you know what I mean? Like, it's earthly things. They keep putting earthly materials in their face, right? And like, if you pray enough, good things will happen to you while you're on earth. And these are the things I'm talking about, bro. Like, and you see them scamming pensioners. You see them doing all of these things, and these guys will be so cold. And the thing is, other pastors won't even call it out. Then they will be sleeping. Like, man, it's just this. Who's actually Christian these days? You start asking yourself.
I know, but and to the point of religion and talk about conquest, people can make the Bible say exactly what you need to say, just to the right type of people. And again, depending on how desperate they are, I think a lot of desperate people do desperate things just in general, whether people who are desperate to, drink alcohol, whether alcoholics, whether drug addicts. You tell the right person something, they will be, I'm telling you, it's like an addiction in some aspects. And yeah, in the case of these things, that's what it is. People will believe a lot of things depending on how you word it to them. And Christians are no different, other people are no different. But anyway, right. So thanks, Rest Pill, for coming up. Appreciate you coming up here. I'm going to end the stream right now. But yeah, please make sure everyone subscribe to the channel. If you are new, please make sure you hit that like button. Hopefully got another live stream coming on Thursday, so make sure you are there. But until then, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for people listening on the playback. And yeah, we're out of here.